Welcome to TalkAboutTopeka.com. I'm Chris Schultz. On this episode, I sit down with the star of a local band. It's Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition. They're joining us on the show. This episode's brought to you by the WIBW channels and The Break Room. Check out everything they've got from an awesome lunch to their gourmet cabaret dinner show at breakroomdowntown.com. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode because it all starts right now. So have you ever wondered what it'd be like to start your own band? Well, this guy knows what I'm talking about. This is Chris Aytes of Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition. How you doing, Chris?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate that. You've been all over Topeka and all over the place with your band, and I want to know, tell us about the whole inspiration behind it.
The inspiration behind the band? When I was in high school, I started playing guitar, started writing songs, and started getting to feel that I really wanted to attempt to do this, as unrealistic and wild of an idea as that is. So I planned well, and I married a drummer. And she and I have been pursuing different musical exploits for the past 10 years, almost 11 years, actually. We've moved around the country doing different things, living different places, having different incarnations of different bands, writing songs. Landed in Springfield a few years ago, got pretty serious, found a bass player there, recorded a few demos, did a few shows, got an album together. Things ended up going their separate ways. We had our first child. I got into working in coffee as a day job. I moved to Topeka to work for PTs.
Yeah.
I met young Josh Hartranft working in the warehouse, who happened to be a bass player. He hopped on board not long before we put out our first album. 3 years later, the three of us are still Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition, and making our first real push to be playing out of town a lot. We've been playing in Topeka a lot for the past few years.
Yeah.
Topeka's been very good to us, very supportive of us, been a great home base. And now throughout this summer, we're playing Wichita, Kansas, to Chicago, Illinois, to Des Moines and Omaha and Springfield, Missouri, and everywhere in between.
I know you've done a lot of good things for the community as well in what you've been doing. So tell us a little bit about how a band can do something good for the community.
Sure. There's been a lot of ways. A personal project that we kind of created and took on, and we did for a year, was a series of showcase concerts that we called Loud, Soft, Loud. And what that was when we first kind of got here, we saw that there were some shows happening, mostly at the Booby Trap through Brian Chambers, which
he's
we
been
love.
On the show before.
We love the Booby Trap. Everybody needs to go out and support our great local music venue. Mostly shows were happening there, not much anywhere else. That's not to say live music wasn't happening. There's great music happening all over the city. Sure. But usually one band all night long at a bar, and that's cool and that's great, and we do that as well. And I love that. But we kind of thought, people might be more apt to get involved in local music if they can pay $3 and see 5 bands.
Yeah.
So we decided we would do, every few months, we would just organize our own big showcase, except we went more ridiculous, and it was pay $3, and I think the first time we did it, it was see 9 different artists.
Wow.
And it was local and regional, so it was Topeka acts, and even the first time we did it, we had a band from McPherson, we had 2 different singer-songwriters from Springfield, Missouri, and I forget what else right now. But just the first time out, we had 9 acts in one night.
Quite a spectacular,
Yeah,
maiden
it was.
voyage
It was really cool. And the sound guy thought we were nuts. He was really angry at me at the beginning of the night, but at the end of the night, he really enjoyed himself.
Sure.
And so we did that, and every 4 months, or every 3 months, every 3 months, we did another one. And as we kept doing that, we started to see some of the bands that we were close to, that we were working with, started to do that more. In venues outside the Booby Trap, because that's the normal thing with what Brian does. It's always 3-4 bands.
Yeah.
But we started to see people booking more shows at great places like Celtic Fox, except now instead of just playing all night, they got a couple other bands to come with them. And I want to take all the credit for that, but I want to take all the credit for that. But for that, we really wanted to boost the local music scene. We wanted to help support the other artists. We wanted to help get more people coming out and supporting music. Because our philosophy is, if it boosts the local scene, if it boosts the arts community, if it boosts the music community, it boosts us.
Yeah.
And in my mind, none of my musical heroes have ever come from without a scene. I worded that horribly, but what I meant was all of my heroes came from a scene. Once upon a time, even the Beatles were just another band playing in Liverpool.
Yeah,
And everybody comes from a strong scene who has a long career. So
do you see the scene here in Topeka? I mean, especially with, say, the Noto Arts District, and you're seeing a lot of these creative folks coming together. Are you seeing a build in the music scene as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And Topeka music scene is very different from a lot of places. And we still have to battle this mentality a lot, even among the local musicians that say, "Oh, there's really not a scene here, and it's really weak." But it's just different, because in a lot of places, a scene means there's 20 bands and they all kind of sound the same. And you can look at Seattle in the early 90s. It was just all about grunge, and not to clump all of them in together, but you can point at Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, Mudhoney, and they all came from the same kind of realm. Topeka's not that way. Topeka, there's 75 bands, and hardly any of them are doing anything the same. And any night you could go see Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition do our rock and roll revival thing, where we're mixing all these rock and roll elements from 50s, 60s, and 70s. You could catch Monk's Wine doing this pop rock, jazzy fusion thing that I love. You could catch Ellie Smith and the Commotion doing phenomenal blues, and a lot of other great blues bands in town.
Yeah.
The Top City Ramblers doing great rebellious country music. Lopan's Revenge doing this post-punk surf rock thing, and on and on and on. Bulletproof Tiger. I could go on dropping names of bands that I love in this town. But we're all extremely different, and that's the thing about the Topeka scene right now, is it's really rich with all kinds of stuff. And there's no telling what you might run into if you just go out and check out what's happening musically in this town.
It's always good, as with any art, when artists are able to kind of use their talents and foster their talents to help other people grow their own talent, as opposed to having some kind of a photocopy book of this is okay, well, you copy this and do that and then do this because they're doing it right, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. Like it's always good to see a scene that really encourages it to blossom out and supports each other instead of just trying to beat everybody down.
Yeah, and there tends to be a lot more of that just support in Topeka, bands working together. We've gotten to play some great shows with some even good traveling and out-of-town bands because another local band hooked us up with that show or recommended us, or somebody that runs a venue recommended us to help somebody that was touring through. We've gotten to do a lot of stuff like that. The emerging arts community has been good to us as well. Aaron Douglas Art Fair supported us a couple years in a row.
And we just had them on the show last week, so people can go back and find out about the Aaron Douglas Art Fair as well.
That's right. And they do a lot to support local music. Noto, we played at Serendipity many times. We did a little bit of a residency there last year. On, and things are crossing over, and the arts is supporting the music, and music is supporting the arts more and more. And that's really great. And there's some cool stuff happening in this town, and people often don't know about it, and people often discount it. But I'm telling you, there's world-class musical talent in this town.
That's right. I think one of the coolest things, we talk a lot about people wanting to move out of town, when they get older or whatever. If we can foster the youth to see that their individual talents are, accepted and encouraged, and there are people that help them with that, and they can really find that one little niche place that they can fit in. That's how we keep creative people in this community. Yeah. And I think this is a perfect example right here of how we've seen a community grow through music, through art, and man, thanks for all you're doing. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know people don't sit there and say thanks a lot, but thank you, really.
I accept.
Yeah. Excellent. So tell us about some of your website and how folks can find out about about Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition.
Yeah, we are out there, thegoodambition.com. Spelled just like you think it would, or my name, chrisaytes.com, spelled just like this.
Yes,
because no one can ever figure out how to spell that.
Tell me about how you guys came up with a name.
Well, long ago I realized if I'm going to make it in music, it's going to be a long road. It's going to take a while. Bands are going to come and go. Band members are going to come and go. And I didn't want to have to create a new band name every time we lost the bass player or every time some guitarist quit or whatever.
Sure.
Because a lot of bands have to do that. They lose members, only a couple people left, come up with a new name. Now they have to write a whole new catalog of songs, and that just sounded impossible to me. So I decided then, a lot of my heroes are guys like Bruce Springsteen and Elvis Costello and Buddy Holly, guys whose names I know. And so, but I always wanted to have a band. So I thought, again, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Elvis Costello and the Outtakes, and Buddy Holly and the Crickets, and on and on. And I thought that's great, because what we do musically, for anybody who hasn't heard us, it's rooted in the first era of rock and roll, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, that kind of stuff. Really then heavily influenced by the British invasion, and then the stuff in the 70s with power pop and punk and other things. All kind of mixed together to be really fun, rock and roll, exciting. You can dance to it, you can smile and have a good time. And so it just fit that idea of Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Gene Vincent and the Blue Caps, Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition.
Yeah.
How we landed on Good Ambition, I'm not entirely certain. I don't necessarily remember. Yeah, I mean, you just keep going and you jot down cool band names that come up. And I thought I liked the national average for a long time, because people kept talking about the national average price of gas. So I liked that for a long time. But then a band came out that was called The National that got huge. So I was like, well, it's not going to be the national average.
Foiled again.
So eventually, and I don't remember how Good Ambition landed, but it's worked, because we're an ambitious band. We're full of optimism. It's just been a name that has suited us well. So that's the story behind it, as much of a story that there is.
Well, excellent. Well, folks, you found out about Chris Aytes and the Good Ambition, and you need to go check out their website. Say it one more time.
TheGoodAmbition.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and everything else.
All right, there we go. And I can't let you go until we do the notorious lightning round.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I have to ask you these questions here. And
That's right.
If you watch the show, you might actually have a leg up on some of these. We'll
Maybe.
see. All right.
I do watch the show, but I forgot about the darn lightning.
Oh, all right. Well, let's put 60 seconds on the clock and see where we end up. All right. First question. In your opinion, what was the greatest movie ever made?
Shawshank Redemption.
Good one. All right. Do you prefer Facebook or Twitter?
Twitter.
All right. I think you're the first person to ever say that on here.
Yeah.
Twitter followers. There you go.
Causing waves.
Where'd you attend high school?
Great Bend, Kansas.
All right. If you were a car, what kind of car would you be?
Dodge Dakota.
All right.
From 1991.
Okay.
Red with orange and yellow decals on it.
You all can figure that out. On
Daytona, not Dakota. Did I say Dakota?
Well, okay. Daytona makes a little more.
Was
okay,
my first car.
I can see that.
I said Dakota. So figure that out. That's probably an SUV. Soccer moms drive.
Let's see. What's your first job?
My first job, I worked at Animal Medical Center. I walked dogs and cats and cleaned up mountain oysters.
Sounds interesting. Let's see. If you could bring a dead celebrity back to life and ask him one question, who would it be and what would you ask?
It'd be John Lennon. And I don't know what I'd just say. Tell me whatever you want to tell me.
Just say John Lennon.
Yeah.
Right. Well, our time is up. But what's your favorite television show to watch every Tuesday night at 9:30 on my TV?
Talk about Topeka.
Hey, there we go, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
on
for
the show.
having me, man.
Really appreciate you coming by, and I appreciate that you have your piece, and there's such a vibrant music and art scene going on here in Topeka.
Yeah, so get out there and check it out.
That's right. He said it better than I could. So do it, you. That's right.